The Simpsons.
If you've ever watched The Simpsons, you'd know that Homer works at a nuclear power plant as a nuclear safety inspector. The show makes the job look innocent, but the show hides the horrors a nuclear power plant could bring. 3 Mile Island would only show us a taste in 1979, but on April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl power plant will unravel the true horrors of a nuclear power plant meltdown. In order to truly understand what happened at Chernobyl, you first need to understand how a nuclear power plant functions. When looking at how a nuclear power plant works, it may look confusing, but it is a pretty simple process. The beginning of the process begins in the reactor with the splitting of uranium atoms, also called fission, which is where the nuclear radiation comes from. The splitting of uranium atoms generates heat that creates steam to be used by the turbine generator to create electricity. To control the release of energy from the reactor, control rods are inserted to absorb the energy. The reactor type used at Chernobyl was the RBMK-1000. This type was poorly designed. It lacked a shield around the reactor to prevent nuclear radiation leakage. The US TMI-2 and the 3 Mile Island meltdown had a shield around the reactor to prevent radiation leakage. The workers wanted to find out how long the turbines would spin with the lack of power and other systems running. They began shutting down automated systems, and according to worldnuclear.org, by the time that the operator moved to shut down the reactor was in an extremely unstable condition. When the control rods were inserted into the reactor, there was a massive power surge, and it only went downhill from there. Also, according to worldnuclear.org, after the power surge, the interaction of the very hot fuel with the cooling water led to a fuel fragmentation along with the rapid steam production and an increase in pressure, therefore the explosion. But the explosion was only the beginning.
Расцветали яблони и груши, поплыли туманы над рекой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила на берег Катюша, на высокий берег, на крутой. Выходила, песню заводила про степного сизого орла, про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Про того, которого любила, про того, чьи письма берегла. Ой, ты песня, песенка девичья, ты лети за ясный солнце свет.
The initial explosion sent 5% of remaining radiation to the atmosphere and killed 2 workers. Over 1,000 first responders, or liquidators, as the Soviets called them, were sent to clean up and repair the damage the first day. Liquidators were made up of civil and military personnel that greatly helped the Chernobyl situation, and over the next few years, an estimated 200,000 liquidators would help with the cleanup and repair of Chernobyl, and of those 200,000, 90,000 would receive long-term radiation damage. An estimated 30 direct deaths were from the Chernobyl incident. 2 workers were killed by the explosion. Another 4 were killed in a helicopter crash. The helicopter was circling Reactor 4 when it hit a construction crane and crashed to the ground. The rest of the direct deaths were caused by radiation exposure in the following months, but because of the release of radiation in the atmosphere, many others would suffer from radiation sickness. Radiation can enter the body and affect the body in many different ways. Radiation can contaminate animals, water, or other substances that we would consume. A physician-scientist, James A. Fagan, stated on MSKCC.org that the thyroid gland is very efficient at trapping iodine, particularly in children. This means that many children were diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Many people would receive external irradiation due to physical contact with contaminated items. From there, the radiation would slowly destroy the body. The cleanup and repair were only part of the incident. The evacuation of Pripyat was the whole other issue. Following the Reactor 4 explosion, civilians in the nearby city Pripyat was told the smoke was a scheduled steam release. Pripyat was a fairly nice city with expensive facilities. In fact, the city set up an amusement park to keep the civilians less focused on the burning power plant. The amusement park was only used for a day before the USSR government decided to evacuate Pripyat. On the 27th of April, 1986, the citizens heard this very message. Attention, dear comrades. The City Council of People's Deputies reports that in connection with accident at Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the city of Pripyat, an unfavorable radiation situation develops. Party and Soviet bodies and military units take necessary measures. However, in order to ensure the complete safety of people and, in first place, children, it becomes necessary to temporarily evacuate the residents of city to nearby settlements in Kiev. To this end, to each apartment building today, on April 27th, starting at 2 p.m., a bus will be served accompanied by police officers and representatives of the City Executive Committee. It is recommended to take documents with you, extremely necessary things, as well as, for the first time, food. Heads of enterprises and institutions define the circle of employees who remain in place to ensure the normal functioning of the city enterprises. All houses for the period of evacuation will be guarded by police. Comrades, temporarily leaving your home, do not forget, please close the windows, turn off the electrical and gas appliances, turn off the water taps. Please observe peace, orderliness, and order during temporary evacuation. The citizens were told to only bring necessities, for they were told they would return in a few days. But after all the citizens were evacuated, the government closed off Pripyat forever. Citizens were not allowed to return to pick up the rest of their belongings. Chernobyl will not be habitable for another 20,000 years. The once happy and populated town of Pripyat has turned to a ghost town. Reactor units 1 through 3 operated for another 15 years before being decommissioned. Today, the Ukrainian government controls the area. They've made an effort to help fix the area. Last year, they finally sealed the sarcophagus of the reactor with a dome to stop the radiation leakage. This dome has cost over $2 billion with the support from many other countries. Wildlife has also inhabited the area. Today you can take tours of the ghost town. The tours are very tightly secured by the Ukrainian government. The tours are 18 and older that are entirely safe. Chernobyl has left a scar on the world, taught the world a valuable lesson. So now you probably won't look at Homer's job with a light heart.